podcast.
6 years is a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, tears. But you know what? I'm here, and it's nothing but love and thank you to everybody. You know what I mean?
And it's incredible product you put out here, and it's always educational.
For sure, education changes people's situations. DJing, that's why we're here. When did you first get on a turntable, my man?
Getting on turntables was 2014 when I moved to London, but actually DJing was in high school. So to kind of give a bit of a backstory, I've always been afraid to give the whole story, and I think that now we're in part 2 here of the podcast. I'll go right from the beginning. So going through high school, the first high school I went to, I kind of went through a little bit of a hard situation, and music helped me through that. So when I transferred schools, I would walk the hallways listening to music, and I didn't really talk to any of my friends that went to the high school that I transferred to. Met one of my buddies in the hallway one day, and he dragged me in, and I ever since then had a really strong friend group back home that we're still all friends to this day. And the thing that was always prevalent for me at parties was the music. It would change the room, could change the outcome of the party, and everybody was always asking me to be the guy that controlled the playlist or made a CD for the party. So I figured, why don't I try and find a way to learn how to DJ? So I started on Virtual DJ. They have a great on-site platform that you can just take your music library from iTunes and transfer it over and DJ that way. Then going through college, spent a lot of my OSAP money going to nightclubs in Oshawa, for sure, with all my buddies.
Okay.
But I really learned the art of DJing, I guess, by listening to other people, and got my first controller. Started practicing in my bedroom. Moved out to London and got my first opportunity to DJ out here. And then shout out to Derek and Kirk, but Derek got me on turntables and said that if I was ever going to get respected by the OGs, that I had to try and use turntables. So, between him and Dave Matthews, once I got on a set of turntables, they said I would never go back, and here I am still to this day using turntables like an old head.
Hey, man, I see you in your sets. I see you in the booth. You do great work, I think my biggest thing is that we think about technology, we think about equipment. How much is you probably have always upgraded and things like that, but how much money since have you put out in this as like a form of a passion that's turned to investment, that's turned into a business?
It's ongoing constantly, but if I was to put it down to a dollar amount, probably $40,000 between leaving gear out in the rain or doing outdoor events where gear gets damaged. And, I've made a few mistakes leaving gear out at cottages and whatnot, but, the biggest investment is always in the music. Prior to contrary belief, we actually do have to pay for licensed music as DJs. There's a group that polices it, but just constantly ongoing, whether we're trying to, let's say, a venue asks us to do music videos. We have to pay for, the music videos, because ripping YouTube videos is obviously not going to be a good quality product for a high-end client.
Exactly.
But, in an emergency situation, that's obviously, I've definitely gotten by with that once or twice, but monthly subscriptions to record pools, back when I was using needles, constantly paying for new needles, buying new records because the records get scratched. With new technology now, there's a thing called phase that sort of emulates the same sort of effect as a needle. But, the initial upfront cost of that is, thousands of dollars, where, there's very little barrier to entry to start DJing, but on a professional scale, it gets very expensive very quickly.
I feel you, man. I'm an aux cord DJ. I'm gonna keep it real. You know what I mean? I don't know about getting me behind the turntables. I feel like I would just be more of the mic. You know, be like a DJ, DJ drama, a Khaled or a what was it? I mean, like a Swiss Beats. You know what I
And,
mean?
and you know what, man? Like that role is needed sometimes too. Like the technical side of DJing is only one piece of it. Like having the right music selection can change the outcome of the party. Like I said previously, I think that it's important to have, a little bit out of every bag, right? And a guy like DJ Khaled, like it's no mistake that he's gotten 5 or 6 platinum albums in a row, right? As much as he's not doing any of the producing, quote unquote, he's got the ear for the right people to put on a song and the right song for those people to be on, right? And that's needed, right? And that's again, if I can circle it back to something I know best, like the importance of requests. If I'm not having the best day or I can't catch a vibe in the room, I always say to people, what song do you want to hear? And I've said it to you before too, right? I'll fire you a text message when I see you out. What song do you want to hear? What do you think would work for the room? Because, you have an expansive music knowledge in comparison to a lot of people. And I think that as DJs, we don't lean on people enough to consider requests and to take other people's vibe into consideration when we're playing throughout the night, but within our own time frame is what's important. The whole can I have a request and play it right now? Maybe it doesn't work right now, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to play it.
That makes sense. What would you say is the hardest genre to play out of? Be honest, straight.
It's so hard to say because a lot of the hip hop from 2016 till now has sort of sounded the same. So figuring out what the gems are in that genre for sure. As well, dancehall, soca, reggae, that stuff too. I don't know what I don't know. So I can't sit here and say that I could play a set of that stuff. But on a day-to-day basis, it's finding a way to get all of the gems from each genre and mix them into one night and make everybody happy. You got to have the one group happy. You got to have the people who are paying for bottles happy. You got to have just the regular club goers happy. So I think it's a combination of almost everything, man.
Makes sense. So we talk about this DJing and things like that. And I always see in the booth, you have yourself, you may have a couple friends, could be family members, there's ladies that are there. Speak to me about that a little bit. Like, is it something that's supposed to be happening? Are you allowed to have people in the booth? Like, I kind of look at it 2 different ways.
Okay. So I'll give you the popular opinion and then the unpopular opinion.
Love it. Let's go.
Popular opinion is I love having company. It's great to look like you're enjoying yourself with a ton of people, because if you look like you're enjoying yourself, then it looks weird for everybody else to not be enjoying themselves. That's sort of the role that we have to play as DJs. At one place that I play, the Drink Uptown, I'm the center of attention in the entire room. So if I don't look like I'm enjoying myself, it messes up the vibe of the room. So having those people there who, maybe not there for the right reasons are also important for me to sort of portray an image. There's a lot of people that don't necessarily belong there, for sure, but it's also great to have company because, again, this is where it shifts into the unpopular opinion, is DJing is actually relatively lonely. Most times you're having conversations with people who are coming into the booth. It's, hey, can I have a song request? Hey, can you get my friend into the bar? Hey, what do you think of the weather outside? And, getting through all the small talk to people actually getting to the reason why they're coming up to me is sort of the battle that we face as DJs, because I don't often have a conversation with somebody, or I can have a conversation with somebody about, hey, what's going on in your life? Hey, how are you doing? All that stuff, because I'm focused on doing a job as well. So as much as I'm around people and I'm with people all the time, people don't really take the time to get me for me, or a DJ for who they are and what they care about, right? It's very service based, and as much as that seems sad and dark or what have you, um, I also depend on those people sometimes too, that I do know from an outside relationship, like yourself, or any of my friends that I see on a daily basis, to come up and have a conversation with me, because I do deal with so much of the people that I necessarily don't know as well, that are just asking me for things, right?
No, makes sense. Makes sense. What are some of the misconceptions you feel like DJs face that a lot of people may not have maybe a little bit of a disconnection to?
It's a great question.
I know what I'm doing here. Eh? There's a little something.
You've done it once or twice. We're actually functioning human beings. We don't just party all the time. While it seems like our life is a party, we do live regular lives outside. And I guess that we're there to only please everybody else. A lot of what we do, and what I was saying previously, music for me is therapeutic. I can go from having the worst day to snap of a finger, playing a couple good songs in a row and getting a good response from people, to changing my day around, right? So sometimes we need to do it for ourselves too.
Makes sense. You said something, DJing being lonely, right? How do you have DJ Matt Royal, and then you have Matt Royal outside of the DJ booth. How do you balance the both of them?
Good conversation, definitely. Open conversation about, other things other than the club. Definitely finding a passion project outside of DJing is important. Reading, watching podcasts about other successful people, and ways that maybe people that are DJs have innovated and shifted culture outside of the music, or used that platform to shift their their business or what have you outside of DJing. I focus a lot of my time on how I can be a better team player for other DJs. Sort of kind of how I keep my head level. It's important to make sure you understand how hard it was for yourself to get into the position you're in, and how you can teach others lessons in less time to get to where you are now, but without going through the bumps in the road.
Oh, that's well said. Well said. When we think of culture and atmospheres and things like that, you say Oshawa, London. How would you say you shift the culture because you're originally from Oshawa, I take it?
I'm from Ajax, but I went to school in Oshawa, Durham College.
Okay, went to school in Oshawa. How would you say you shifted the culture between Ajax, Oshawa, to now London, Ontario?
Not giving a traditional product. I pride myself on playing as much as I can of different things to try and expose people to different kinds of music throughout the night, but also, taking a risk and being a part of experiences that challenge you, I suppose. I never had done a hip hop based night before, and then, shout out to all the guys who were involved in Contrast Saturdays when we were doing that. It was arguably, and still can go down in history as one of the best hip hop nights in London. There was definitely some that came before us that we, can pay homage to. And I necessarily didn't visit those parties, but I've done enough research to know that there are people who've done what we did before that. But just taking a chance and trying to do something different that you may not be necessarily comfortable with, but it helps change your skill set down the road.
I know for sure. So DJing. Now, do you always ever have this conversation of what's next after DJing, or is it like this is the place that you really want to still cement, or is it something else coming?
Well, I mean, we can shift into sort of what's next for me, but as far as a conversation of what's next with DJing, I think a lot of people have this misconception that this is something fun that we do till we're 30, 35, 40 years old, and then, we have to grow up and live a real life. There are more DJs now that are in their late 30s, early 40s, and some even into their 50s that still DJ and make a living from this. There's ways to shift and adapt. Definitely throwing your own parties as a DJ is a way that you can kind of shift. But yeah, I think that's a question that often I get when I go home or I go to family functions is, when are you going to start? When's the party ever going to end? And in reality, it may look like a party that night, but there's still a whole lot of business that goes on behind the scenes, and using your experiences sort of to shift into my own situation here is use your experiences and problems that you've noticed in the industry to shift and again take on that passion project or that side project that can help shift and change the culture too.
Makes sense. No, makes sense. Well said. So you said something. You got something brewing. What's brewing over there?
So most oftentimes when I'm out in a bar and I say, people come up to me and ask me questions. A lot of the questions for me are always, do you have a charger or do you have a place I can plug my charger in? And
talk about it.
I went on a trip to Costa Rica with one of my buddies, Brady Walker, who's now my business partner. But he had introduced me to this product. It's called Brick. So we've implemented it in about 150 venues here in Ontario, as well as Alberta and Calgary specifically. But essentially, it's a way for people to rent a charger inside of a venue. They can charge their phone, takes traditional phone from 1 to 100% in less than an hour, and they can return it back to any station, very similar to like the bike rental system in Toronto. So for me, rather than people coming up to me and saying, hey, do you have a charger? Now I'm providing them a solution and also making a business for myself and, other people that, provides that solution that and avoids that one question that, we always get, right?
Of course, I know people like how do you leave your house with like 100% battery? Like I feel like every time I leave my base, I'm at least 100 to 90%. Gotta be, you know what I mean?
Well, and that's
but things happen. Yeah,
like,
things happen.
As functioning adults, we all should plug in our phones on our nightstands when we go to bed at night and wake up with a full charge. But a lot of this also stemmed for me for hearing horror stories of people not getting home safe because they didn't have their phone to make a phone call or call an Uber or call a taxi. And that's something that I really looked to help combat was, even though I'm the fun guy inside the bar, I still care about everybody who's there and making sure everybody gets home safe. And, this was another solution that I could provide people to solve that problem, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I feel like one of the things to echo off of that is universal Wi-Fi. I think that should be a thing also too, right? Because you know what it was like back in July when the whole grid went down, the whole Rogers wireless grid went down, like, hello, what I mean? And I was going from a transition of work from home. So thank God I didn't work from home yet because I was like, what in the world would I have done? And here's a little side story to people. I had to sit in freaking McDonald's. I went to McDonald's twice just down the street to really get caught up with what was going on because I could only talk to people who were either on Bell or Telus. You know what I mean? And it's just like there was a lot of important things going on, and then there was a passing of a family friend and this and that. But it was nerve-wracking. And it's like the Wi-Fi technology, we bank on this. So if it goes down, it's like, yo, can we have this universal Wi-Fi that we can tap in from like Bell or Telus or somewhere? You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, and there's a couple places that have done it. I believe it's Execulink that does it in Calgary. But if you have an Execulink account, you can get Wi-Fi anywhere in the city. But obviously with technology advancing, there's other solutions like Starlink that's coming out, where it'll make it, universally accessible Wi-Fi. But again, was to combat a problem that people were having was no access to cell service. So we saw it on a very surface level, but there's places in the world that don't have access to Wi-Fi, and solutions like that are extremely important. And just to touch back on what you were saying, sorry to hear about the family friend they're passing, but the importance of staying connected with each other and communication is huge. So yeah, definitely creates for an interesting gap in the market that hopefully a solution comes sooner rather than later.
No, so true. And no, I do appreciate that and I received that. Communication is such a thing, man. You know what I mean? Like we're communicating here, sorry. And it's like, I would love to do this in like full time in a studio. Coming soon. It's just give it time. It's reps, you know what I mean? And things like that. But it's like communication is there's so much disconnection in the world that we don't know how to communicate with the world. You know what I mean? And it's just like, how do we find ourselves to talk? For me, it's like making connections, networking, podcasting, and you know what I mean? And you get countless of DMs from everybody. You know what I mean? And it's like, hey, let's collab here, let's collab there. Hey, there's an opportunity here, there's an opportunity there. Not all opportunities you can take, because it's like some of them you just gotta be like, is this something that's gonna work long term? You know what I mean? Versus short term gain, and things like that. So
so just to sort of ask you a question, I know that it's
go ahead, bro.
normally
it's all
the
good.
other way is when people reach out to you to collaborate and talk, or do a podcast, or collaborate on a product, how do you sort of sift through what you sort of align yourself with? Is there a certain metric? Is it energy? How do you sort of go about that?
Man, that's a great question. It's a powerful question also too. For me, it's about, I always do research on people, even all my guests, right? Doesn't matter what guest it is. It could be big, small. I don't worry about the following counts and things like that, or the stardom, or where they come from. So it's always about what are they doing in the back end? Because there's a lot of people that want to come on podcasts or want to collaborate, and it's just they want to ride on your coattails. It's clout chasing, right? And I'm not into that, right? Anybody can go out there, go get the clout, get the viral moment. That's not what I'm necessarily looking for. So I got to see the integrity of the person, where they're coming from. And when I talk about integrity of the person, it's like, how often is this person going to check in with you, right? Is this person showing the social digital currency? What that means is, are they out there liking your content? You know what I mean? Are they listening to your content? Are they coming out and saying, hey, listen, I listened to episode whoop-de-whoop. This is how it made me feel, right? And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't know how to make that connection before wanting to just launch something in front of your face. You know what I mean? Like, if I had to go through all the messages in my email, meet on Zoom for this opportunity, and I'm like, no, I can just already see it. You know what I mean? Here's something that I'll give people a tip. I always say is have a LinkedIn account, because your LinkedIn account will reflect. You see who's creeping you on the LinkedIn. You know what I mean? So if you get the high, I know it's like, I think it's like 100 to 400, $500 with the certain tiers. There's people that have creeped me on LinkedIn first and then message me. And I'm like, interesting. Or there's people that creep your Instagram first and then they go to LinkedIn. You know what I mean? So those two separate platforms work with them, with one in their own. But what I tend to do is I always ask questions. And if it's somebody that's maybe wanting to collaborate on a podcast, I look at what other shows they've been on, right? I know how do I say this? I know podcasting is a big thing for a lot of folks right now, right? Everybody wants to get on podcasts. There's some people that go on podcasts just to gain that notoriety, but not present a story. Then you have some that want to have the notoriety, build the story, and then keep building into the community. And then you have the ones that are just storytellers themselves, right? Those are the ones I focus on. The ones that can shape and shift a podcast and you don't even have to say anything. And I've had, in this 6-year journey, there's about 10 of them, right? And last year was one, Saul Blinkoff, Disney animator, one of the like underrated pods that I know people missed. And when I talk to you about the storytelling that man comes about, it's like taking you through a journey. It's like me basically listening to an audiobook, but I'm hosting my own show. There were sometimes I was like, I felt myself like caught in like in a trance, just listening to what he was saying. But I know that that man has been through everything in life. And he talks about the hardships. He talks about the struggles. If you're not talking about your struggles, you're not talking about your hardships, how are people going to be able to relate to you, especially in this digital age right now? And I think a lot of people want to be very surface level because they think being surface level can bring a connection, but surface level doesn't get people to really know who you are as a person, right? That can work into brand deals and things like that. And you look at like the high, exquisite people like your Kim K's and all those people, yeah, they get what they need to do because they come into this place. They did what they needed to do. But the micro influencers like yourself, like me, we're more relatable. So brands are going to be more, what's the word I'm looking for? More reality. They're more reality. They see more reality because they see that you're a human. You're connected. It's not like, hey, you pay me X amount of dollars to fake drink a drink online on a commercial. And you don't know if I took a sip of it, but you just threw me the bag because I have a monster following. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure. And
I hope that answered your question.
No, it does. And, the big thing that I'll say about, the pod and, admittedly, I haven't stayed as connected with it as I should. And, as far as episodes that I've missed, I'm definitely going back and listening to that podcast now is, you've been doing this for 6 years and a lot of people see where it's at now instead of understanding where you started to get to here, right? And it's great for somebody to want to jump on the train and I was on the Mitchell Report Unleashed, and it's to say that you are a listener first and then you have the ability to be on here is sort of important, I guess, with anything in life, is to support a product first and then back it rather than
absolutely.
Right. And I think that's, something definitely that, speaks to your character, man. Like you very much support the people that you have on here, and myself included. I very seldom see you out, but when I see you out, I know that you haven't come out very often, and it's always appreciated that, and I think that that's something, especially as an entertainer, that we don't take enough time to sort of give a nod to, is the people who come in and day out. It's not about the famous person that comes in to watch you or the famous person that listens to the podcast or the famous person that wants to come on the podcast. It's about supporting the people who have supported you, right? And
absolutely.
You do a great job of that, and it's very interesting and fulfilling to hear your answer when it comes to who you choose, because obviously I have the pleasure of being on here, and I know that you're very, I don't want to say critical, but you're very selective of the people that you have.
Well, here's what I'll do. I'll wake it up. I won't go too deep. I've had shows in this 6-year standpoint where there's big monster guests, there's celebrity type of guests, and then there's the not so celebrity guests. I'll speak about the not celebrity guests first. Those tend to be the better shows. Why? More relatable. People are not going to dance around the conversation per se. And that's not throwing any shots at anybody. Because believe it or not, I only listen back to my shows when I'm in editing. I don't ever go back to a podcast, ever. And some people are like, why is that? Because you want to listen to your own voice? I talk too much already, so I don't want to hear me keep talking. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, okay, I can't be bothered. But then you look at the shows where people have reached out and you realize they had an agenda, right? And that's where I will speak to, when you're creating, you will find people that just want to come in just to see what they can take before placing that offering. That's why I say is listening to the show first. What type of social digital currency are you showing? You know what I mean? Is it just about, oh, let me just hop on this podcast because it's cool? Oh, he had this person on the show. Oh, okay, I'm going to go on the show now. But then you're not resharing the show. You're not, you know what I mean? There's no hype. There's no promo. Like, I've had people not even, it's so crazy. They promo the show for the whole week, and I've only put up the thing one time on social media. And I'm like, damn, okay. Because that's people saying, like, listen, I respect who this person is. But that's what happens if you're caught up in the fast lane and you just want things quick. Can't be like that.
No, for sure. And I mean, to sort of touch on what you said about talking, you know, the saying obviously is the person who talks the most or the loudest in the room obviously has the least to say. You know, when the reason why I enjoy a conversation so much with you, bro, is when you speak, you select when you speak, and you're very poignant with what you speak about. You don't choose to talk about things that you don't understand, and this is why obviously there's so much value in this podcast. Is your words are so powerful, and people don't understand that. And I think that that's kind of where my nerves came from with this. Is, you know, how do I portray the right message to someone who's younger than me or someone who's in the same industry, the value of the position that we hold in society as a whole. And I get that, you know, at the end of the day, I just push buttons and play other people's music, but it's what I say to everybody else who's trying to do that, and, you know, bring value outside of just what I do, is sort of where I guess the nerves came from. And with you being such a good speaker, and you know, your words have value as a human being, but especially coming from you, I listen very attentively to everything that you say because of your selectiveness in speech, for sure.
And that's the thing, and it comes with years of practice, right? I remember my early days, breathy, just really, really breathy. And then there was days where I just say things that I want to say. Now, I have stuff that I'm sitting on, right? And this is maybe a little prelude here. I'm stuff that I'm sitting on that if I wanted to get canceled, I could. But then I'm like, I have to think about how am I going to deliver it that it's palatable, right? Because we talk about one of the records that you have on your wall there. A lot of what's happening in society right now, and I said, is that you have the mainstream views, and then you have like the not so mainstream views. And a lot of what I see as something like a podcaster, I get it because I play both sides. But what a lot of these people of influence have to do is know how to say it in a way that people can understand, right? You can't just go off the grid, because tone and delivery is going to mess you up. This is how it is. This is going to mess you up, right? And how you combo certain words together. It's like playing Street Fighter and you hit somebody with a 10-hit combo. 9 times out of 10, you're just diminished their health bar. So when people hear this, they're like taken by it. You can't really do that. You have to know how to take people by it to where they're like, shit, he said some real shit. I understand. Okay, move on to the next. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yes, sir.
For sure. I just to touch on sort of that last part there is, there's many ways to do it. And obviously, you know, the statement, actions speak louder than words. It's a combination of that with that social digital currency, is whether you're trying to be educational with what you're saying, or whether you're trying to add clickbait to your content, right? And I think that a lot of people rush to post something that's clickbaity or to get a reaction from that's expected, rather than providing education behind what you're saying or what you're sharing. And I think that, yeah, definitely something that you do well, bro, is provide education with the content, right?
I don't want to take away from the pod, but it's so funny because I remember I commented on somebody's post on TikTok, and it was a girl saying that, you know, men should pay on dates. Now, we're not turning this into a relationship episode, but it's like men should pay at least on the first date, second date, whatever. And I go, I agree. And then this troll comes out of left field going, that's sexist. I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, this is what the world's turned into. A bunch of people online behind their screens punching in information. and going frantic to be like, let me troll him back. And here's the thing is this, you can comment, but I'll troll you back. And the thing is, I'm so quick with blocking stuff now. We didn't talk about that. I block. It's once you're blocked, you're out of my existence because I don't ever see you ever again. So when you email me, okay, flag for spam. Now how do you get in contact with me? Show up at my door, good luck. You don't know where I live. You know what I mean? Because I could be anywhere in this world.
No, man,
so,
it's,
you know the vibes.
Yeah, man. And you definitely circling back to myself, man, it's important for people to understand that your opinion isn't necessarily the one that is going to change who I am or the way I go about things. Posting content, like, let's just circle back to the TikTok thing. Just because you have an opinion doesn't make it valid, right? And even with playing music, I have to be selective about the message that I get across or the things that I do, because, it's, people can sit there and say, you know what, oh, well, he only plays this kind of music, like he's a one-sided DJ, right? When in reality, it's, maybe that's just a message that I'm trying to portray, or the lane I'm trying to occupy, right? While it's important to have an opinion on everything, or people think it's important to have an opinion on everything, sometimes you have to stick to a lane first and then branch out from there.
I love it.
And I think that, I'll use, I know that this is kind of like an offshoot of what we were just talking about, but to sort of relate this back to DJing, I use this reference with a lot of the newer guys as an example.
Let's hear it.
So Drake can occupy a bunch of different lanes. When he started, he was the guy that sang on hooks, and I forget the lyrics in the song, but if we put Drake on every hook, they're bound to have a hit or whatever, right? That was Drake's lane that he had to occupy, while he took the opportunity to go and try something new. Look at this as like a 2-lane highway. So there's oncoming traffic on the one side, and you're on the other side, and there's a dotted yellow line in the middle. You can go into oncoming traffic, or that oncoming traffic lane, to try something new. But occupying that lane doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to now be 2 lanes on your side of the road and the oncoming traffic is going to go around you. You have to sometimes go back to what you, like the lane that you've occupied, you need to stay in that lane to maintain the audience that you have. But it's okay.
Man, oh man.
It's good to go outside of your lane and try something new, but you have to be weary of not understanding that, like what's in that lane, right? Like for me, the hip hop thing, it was good for me to go and try that. I learned a lot of new skills, but where I excelled was in doing the open format top 40, a little bit of everything, right? I can't just stay in that hip hop lane and be the hip hop guy. While I can transition into being that guy, I don't understand that skill set fully. So I can't sit here and say, oh, well, now I'm jumping lanes into this XYZ thing, right? And I think that people are so soon to jump into something new and say that they're a part of that without understanding the full capabilities of somebody who's been occupying that lane for a very long time.
Man, you're waking it up. You're waking it up, because it's like, I watch a lot of YouTube now, right? I'm deep in the YouTube space, just with different talking points, and it's this constant evolution of the mind, right? Because you see who's regurgitating certain talking points and then who's using textbook talking points. Jordan Peterson. Believe it or not, I'm going to say some stuff here, and it's going to wake up a lot of, it might offend a lot of people. A lot of these YouTubers that are in these talking spaces, debates about relationships and this, and like the manosphere and all these things, they've taken a lot of Jordan Peterson's talking points. Boom, I said it. That's all they've done. And a lot of them have taken the talking points and formulated opinions of the talking points. Now that's weighing both sides of the argument, right? Those are the ones you got to respect. So it's like how everybody tries to do their best impression of Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless in sports debates, and they get loud and they get animated. You're just taking the loud and animated part, trying to get your points across, and you can't do that. Everybody's got a different opinion when it comes to sports, or your favorite player, or your favorite team. It happens. But it's like you got to keep it to a point where you got to be able to weigh both sides. But also have that clickbait material also too, because The clickbait material is what's working. Also,
for sure.
You know what I mean?
100%.
So 100%. You do a little. I've seen this live in I don't know if you thought I was gonna come up with this. You probably see you like started laughing. You come up with this formula in the system with Justin Timberlake songs, bro. And I'm calling you out on the pod right now. Like, how long did it take you to do it? How long did it take you to chime in the do? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, but the people don't know what you're talking about. But back to you.
If I'm honest, it's paying attention to what other people do and learning how. What's the best way to do this?
Don't dance around it. Come on, man.
I didn't come up with that. I just learned.
You're lying.
I'm dead serious. I'll send you the link to plug into this, but there's a guy named Trentino. So in his 2013 Red Bull Freestyle performance, he did that transition with the tone play of Juvenile Back That Ass Up into Summer Love by Justin Timberlake. So when I was practicing for freestyle and wanted to audition to get on freestyle, the best way that I learned was by figuring out what other people did and emulating that. Now, while it seems like a new thing and it seems original, it's not, right? I just learned how to do what somebody else did as good as them. So in trying to learn how to do tone plays and whatnot, so tone plays essentially are when you use certain notes in a song or certain beats in a song to create the melody of another song. So I just figured out all of the best ones that had the best reaction in freestyle and learned how to do them. While I'm doing them here and it seems like it's something brand new and that I came up with it and it's original, all I did was just learned what somebody else did first.
Listen, you fooled me because I thought it was your own thing. And hey, listen, we got to learn from somebody. So there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? Because the first time I saw you did that was in, I believe it was at the gym. And you were DJing Friday nights, and I said, "What the fuck is that?" I was like, and I had to look at Miguel, and I go, "Hello, what is that? That's new. I've never seen a DJ do that." You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So you have me, man. Listen. We got to learn from somebody. But hey, listen, and I know you do it. You sneak it, because I'll be out in some of the venues, and I saw one time we were on the patio, and I said, "This dude over here doing it, and I'm not even close by." Because you know what? I want to get my camera. I want that moment.
Right. And the thing is, man, like the importance of making sure people understand, like sort of, I guess the best way to put it is understanding the culture and what came before you and finding a way to sneak it in other ways. Right. So, the big thing for me is I have to find a way to go from dancehall or reggae or soca into hip hop into top 40 music, right? So I take Gallus, which is the song that sampled Back That Ass Up, and I can transition from that into
and
Juvenile.
I didn't even know that. Wow.
And then I can go from Juvenile into Justin Timberlake, right? So while I learned that tone play from somebody else, it's about taking that skill and implementing it into what you need to do and finding a unique way to do it for yourself, right? As you said, formulating a new formed opinion or piece of work that is based off of paying homage to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And while I've never spoken about this out loud, I'm not afraid to say that, I just took what somebody else did and implemented it into my own practice, right?
No, absolutely. And I think that at the end of the day, it's like you got to learn something from somebody, right? All these, influencers like the Gary V's and stuff like that, they've all read the same books, ladies and gentlemen. They have, right? The Tony Robbins of the world, they've all read the same books. They just apply differently, right? So you can't reinvent the wheel unless you create some sort of different formula that that's going to work and that other people can pick up from, right? So no, I'm happy that you said that because we have to learn from somewhere, right? Yeah, Kobe learned from Jordan.
Yeah, man.
Right? But Jordan didn't learn. Who did Jordan learn his game from? There you go. Nobody doesn't talk about that though.
And that's the thing is everybody's quick to form an opinion on, who's the OG or who's the GOAT of this, that, and the other thing, when nobody's willing to do the research or educate themselves on where things come from, right?
Absolutely, for sure. I always leave the podcast with one question back to my guests. How would you say the audience can get 1% better going into 2023?
Expand your circle of influence.
That's it? You're just not going to elaborate off of that? Man, come on, man. Man, dropping nuclear warheads on the podcast. You hear that? Expand your circle of influence. Man, okay.
Honestly, it's, as a DJ, I constantly do research. I'll listen to Drink Champs with, Kevin Hart, who's a comedian. But there's, people draw a lot of comparisons between comedians and DJs because comedians have to practice their material for an audience before they go and do that Netflix special, right? Taking something from what comedians are saying in their practice and how they go about their, honing their skills and transferring that into what you know best and, finding those transferable skills and, broadening that circle of influence is paramount in becoming the best version of whatever you're trying to be, I think.
I love that, man. I love that. Well said. Well, where can everybody check you out on Instagram and plug that information? What is that? You said Brick app? It's called?
Yes. So we're the Canadian rights holder for Brick. So it started in Sweden. So it's brickapp.se/ca is the website for Brick Canada. And then myself for Instagram is Matt Royal Music, all one word, and it's the same for everything. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff.
Yeah, man, for sure. And before we close up the pod, I'm just gonna say this. I'm gonna formulate it. It's about time, or it's gonna be about time when we see you, on the big stages very soon. And you up in Hollywood doing your thing, DJing a set for Drake or something like that. We'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the hoping, right? I can only just be present and available, and just make sure that I'm providing as much value to everybody else as I can, and those opportunities I'm sure will come eventually.
Yes, sir, man. Listen, none but love for you. I appreciate you, and what was supposed to be the first take is now the official second take. So I do appreciate you, man. Shout outs to you.
I appreciate you, bro. Thanks so much for having me on here.